Welcome to the NCS4 Research Seminar Series. My name is Brandon Allen, Director of Research for NCS4 and Associate Teaching Professor of Sport Management at the University of Southern Mississippi. It is my pleasure to introduce our co-presenters for this seminar, Mr. Stephen Watchers and Dr. Jimmy Smith. Today, our presenters will discuss their research on beyond gates and metal detectors, understanding security for professional sports facilities. This presentation will address the literature gap regarding cybersecurity through in-depth interviews from U.S. Professional Sports League and the cybersecurity industry. Our presenters will discuss current innovative approaches to combat and safeguard against these threats. Dr. Smith and Mr. Watchers, thank you for your willingness to share with our audience.
Good afternoon. I am Stephen Watchers, one of the authors for Beyond the Gates and Metal Detectors, Understanding Security for Professional Sports Facilities. I graduated from Gonzaga University with a master's degree in sports management, where I conducted this research and wrote this piece. I have been in intelligence, I've been in the intelligence and security industry for close to 24 years. I recently retired from the Army as an intelligence officer with 22 and a half years, with the last 6 focusing heavily on intelligence in the cyber domain and cybersecurity, and now work for the Defense Intelligence Agency. Dr. Jimmy Smith, is a professor at Gonzaga University, joins me today to discuss our research in our paper. Not present is Dr. Brian Fowler, who is one of my professors at the Gonzaga University and a co-author.
Thanks, Stephen. So I want to give a brief background of how all of this came about. So I was one of Stephen's professors and advisor. He took a research methods course with Dr. Fowler, and over the course of the semester, I received communication from Dr. Fowler talking about Brian, his writing style, but mostly about the topic that he had. And he felt that Stephen's topic was a really unique one, not only based on the gap in the literature related to cybersecurity, but just his overall background with the U.S. Army and intelligence information that he had over essentially decades of his work with and his service with the U.S. Army. So we got to talking, and he put forth a great proposal, and I asked Stephen if he would be interested in pursuing actually collecting data, analyzing the data, and writing up the data. And it wasn't even a convincing conversation. He said yes immediately, and from there we were able to come up with this research project between the three of us, and we're really excited to be able to share that with you. So our research question was, how can security of professional sport facilities be improved in the physical, personal, and cybersecurity domain? So we know that security in professional sports involves a complex interplay between that physical, personal, and cybersecurity challenges. Those challenges continue to happen on a regular basis throughout the professional sport realm. While previous studies that we looked at when it related to professional sport and sport facilities, often talk about popular topics such as ticketing, marketing, event management, but the critical area of security in these facilities remains, largely unexamined. So we wanted to kind of tackle that and be able to fill that gap with relation to all three of those areas, especially with the cybersecurity field, because cybersecurity is somewhat new in the sense of the literature, but also just the rapid change that happens throughout. It's really important to stay on top of this research and be able to share that as soon as possible. So what we did, we created a semi-structured interview where Stephen went out and had the interviews with professional sport security individuals and talked to them about the physical, personnel, and cybersecurity threats within these settings, with the ultimate goal of the study taking a holistic approach to enhancing these measures and the perspective of these professional sport facilities and the professionals that manage them. So we're going to take a look at the literature review from a three-pronged approach based on the physical, personnel, and cybersecurity. So the physical security is an essential safeguard for professional sport facilities, where they employ measures such as fences, physical barriers, and facial recognition systems. Where there's emerging threats such as drone intrusions, as we've seen in conflicts around the world, such as in the Ukraine and Russia situation, which highlights the importance of adopting a proactive security model with aspects such as drone intrusions. Their physical security has been enhancing measures, including pedestrian screenings and hostile vehicle mitigation strategies, which have proven effective, but we still see limitations in these mitigations, as demonstrated during the New Orleans college football playoff. And one thing that is important with the physical aspect is the actual spectators themselves and their preference. 70% of them, statistics show 70% of them express a preference for some sort of visible security during these events that they go to. The next aspect is personnel security. And this security involves coordinating efforts among police, security guards, and venue leadership to ensure the safety of all the spectators, coaches, administrators, and so on. Insider threats do pose a significant risk, making a robust security and the protocols that ensue a regular evaluation for the events themselves, where public and private partnerships certainly enhance the safety by integrating law enforcement and their expertise in the comprehensive stadium security plans. And moving on to the third aspect, which is cybersecurity. And this aspect has become an increasingly critical concern in the sport industry due to the growing reliance on technology. Ever since 1980 and the incidents that happened in the Olympic Games and the cyber attacks revealed the vulnerabilities, including unauthorized data access and operational disruptions. And these cyber attacks continue to happen over and over because the technology continues to advance. As recently as 2022, where the cyber attacks on the 49ers really halted their efforts and evaluating their cybersecurity systems and making adjustments based on that ransomware attack. So other emerging threats related to cybersecurity are rogue Wi-Fi networks, where individuals can come in unbeknownst to any of the personnel security, bringing in small devices as small as cell phones, smartphones, and bringing those into games and wreaking havoc on the Wi-Fi network. And it's really important that these cyber threats in the sports venue extend beyond the financial motivation with the public platform and exploiting these political messages. So people coming in and having these political messages during certain events. One in particular happening in 2015, where an ISIS sympathizer attacked the Ohio Eldora Speedway and the website associated with that.
Okay, so for the methods of the research, the population size was 12 interviews were conducted with personnel affiliated with the federal cybersecurity industry, Major League Baseball, Major League Soccer, NBA, NFL, and professional sports research industry, i.e. NCS4 actually was a group I had a discussion with while conducting research. With that being said, one of the biggest hurdles I had to come across when contacting individuals, conduct interviews, was protection of the sources. Obviously, a lot of people don't like to discuss their weaknesses in regards to their facilities or the franchise or anything like that, whether it's personnel, physical, or cybersecurity. So getting the people I spoke with to understand I would protect their information at all times. I'm actually the only person that knows everybody I interviewed by name, because that's one of my expertises while being in military intelligence was protecting sources. So I was able to get people to understand I would protect. Nobody would ever find out who exactly I talked to by name or by organization, other than they were affiliated with the NFL, the NBA, whatever the case is. So once we got past that, people were a lot more comfortable to have discussion and answer questions based on our research. So data collection, obviously we used the snowball sampling was used until saturation. Semi-structured audio and video recording interviews lasting anywhere from 45 to 75 minutes were conducted. I have vast experience conducting interviews and sitting down with people and talking and gathering information. So that part was really easy for me. Sample questions, we did 11 interview questions 11 interview questions were created to focus on 3 aspects of the information and intelligence: the physical aspect, the personnel aspect, and cybersecurity. Two example questions were: who is most responsible for gathering and sharing information and intelligence about the security of sports facilities, as well as how can the security of a professional sports facility be improved in the physical, personnel, and cybersecurity domain. Data analysis. So all interviews are recorded to ensure accuracy. So when I was writing up, once I conducted interviews and went back to writing, I could, go back and accurately depict what was discussed and the answers that were given during the interviews. After that review, all interviews were recorded and reviewed and categorized the data collected, and then use data-driven coding technique to allow themes to emerge naturally. All right, so in regards to the themes, these were the themes that came across as the most prevalent once we conducted the research. On the personnel and physical and personnel side, law enforcement, contract security staff, and lack of standardized security. So that being said, law enforcement, the theme is anytime you go to a sporting event, even if it's not a sporting event at a sporting facility like a concert or whatever the case may be at a sporting facility, law enforcement is present, whether it's city, state, or federal. There's local law enforcement present to provide that additional layer of security. So that is a known TTP that we use, and it also helps boast that physical security aspect. Contract security staff. So once you get into the facility, it is typically there are contract security staff on the outer perimeter, but once you physically get into it, it's typically more the contract security staff. So the organizations, the venues will contract companies third-party companies to come in and provide that staff. They'll go through very limited training, as well as and that ties into the lack of standardized security, because regardless of where you go, not everybody's security standards are the same, if there are any. And I'll use Los Angeles as an example. You have multiple NBA teams, NFL, Major League Baseball, and other large sporting events and venues in the greater Los Angeles area. There's not a standard for how each one conducts their security, whether it's personnel, physical, to the facility, or whatever the case may be. So that was one of the top themes right there. Obviously, moving on to cybersecurity, human factors. So human factor is the number one threat to anything cybersecurity related because of poor hygiene, people not changing passwords from the default passwords, phishing emails, things like that. The number one threat to anything cybersecurity related is the human factor. So that was very prevalent based on our research. Traditional security training. So with traditional security training, cybersecurity doesn't fall into your typical security training itself. So when staff that work at a facility or work for an organization go through their, whatever security training that they're required to do, cybersecurity typically doesn't fall into that realm. Oftentimes what I was hearing while having these conducting these interviews was some organizations, actually a lot, still look at cybersecurity as an IT function, and IT being, hey, does my laptop connect to the network? Can I send can I send something to the printer to print? That's more IT. Are things functioning? Cybersecurity is not an IT function, and so with that being said, when I started talking to all the individuals about moving cybersecurity more towards the security apparatus, that was apparent that that was not being done yet. And then cybersecurity training. An example of that is there's not a standardized, like, for example, annual cybersecurity training requirement. For example, here in the DoD, we are required to conduct at a minimum annual training, cybersecurity annual training, in order to keep our accounts running. That doesn't include all the different types of accesses we may have, because every time you go to access other types of information, there is more and more built into it. So, for example, on an annual basis, I attend at least 9 different types of cybersecurity training. So again, going back to that, there's no standard for cybersecurity training for the professional or collegiate sports level. Okay, results. So utilizing the six different identified themes. So this study identified there were many security threats faced by facility managers, because typically facility managers, when somebody hears facility manager, what I was realizing with most people think about the person who's responsible for the infrastructure, lights, power, power, water, that kind of thing, groundskeeping and stuff like that. A lot of the community doesn't think, well, when it comes to the security aspect, that's where the facility managers are critical in that. There was a correlation between growing dangers and the challenges faced by facility managers. So some of the facility managers I did interview, when I started asking them very pointed questions towards the security, whether it be physical personnel or cyber, they didn't have a lot of answers. They said we heavily rely on our security staff for that, or law enforcement, or the company we contract to bring in. A holistic view of cybersecurity, while ensuring cyber threats are identified and tracked as part of the overall security risk assessment plan, would help enhance the facility's perimeter and boundaries. So that being said, when you look at it, when you look at an event about to take place, most oftentimes you come up with some kind of security plan of how you're going to ensure the safety and security of all personnel attending and everything going on in the event. So there's no injuries, death, things like that. Typically, cybersecurity is not part of that plan. That's what the results showed us, was when they looked at it, cybersecurity was a whole different portion of that overall plan. Facility and security management leave cybersecurity to different departments when the organization or outsource it. Like I said, they often leave it to their IT department, or a few of the individuals I interviewed said they do outsource it to third-party entities in the U.S. to perform those cybersecurity functions for them remotely. So oftentimes not even physically in the facility itself, but again, some did have a plan going. The current research uncovered that several participants from the facility management profession needed to understand cybersecurity and its impacts on the overall security plan. The results of the study highlighted an overall awareness and success in physical and personnel security, but also revealed a concerning deficiency in the understanding of cybersecurity threats. So what the results showed was people are still attending. Thousands and thousands of people are attending sports venues, or sports games, sports venues for other things such as concerts and things like that. um, Most people often feel pretty secure physically. They see the police presence, they see the police, the canines, they see metal detectors, they know there's clear bag policies, so that physical security is there, and they feel rather comfortable with it. But it re-highlighted that the discussion of cybersecurity threats, whether it be a 14-year-old kid mom and dad's basement 3 blocks away from the facility, or an actual malicious cyber actor who is looking to conduct a high level or a high threat attack against something like the Super Bowl, or the World Series. That's why those things are important, because all it takes is the amount of money invested in those things. You're talking millions of dollars, possible political outfall, things like that. So cybersecurity threats is something that these facility managers need to understand and comprehend. Okay. Overview of key findings. So the current study sheds light on the varied experiences and lack of standardization of physical and personnel security knowledge within the sports facility management. Recognizing gaps in cybersecurity and holistic security approaches calls for innovation and improvement in resilience in several ways. I'm specifically going to talk about number 2, number 3, and number 6. So in regards to cybersecurity challenges, excuse me, things such as, for challenges, there are things like data breaches, athlete privacy, intellectual property and game integrity, ransomware and IT infrastructure attacks, fan data and protection, and ticketing fraud. Esports is huge now. It's obviously just continuously growing. So it's electronic. So guess what? Cyber world all day. And online gaming risks, and then social media and brand protection. Those are just some of the things, just a few of the categories that fall into the cybersecurity challenges as technology continues to advance on a rapid pace. Those are just, again, some of the topics that need to be looked at and viewed when it starts talking about that risk management process. Digitization in professional sports. So performance and analytics, fan engagement and experience, esports, again, in virtual sports, business and operations. Those things are critical because most things are going digital nowadays. So you walk into a facility, a sports venue, and they offer you free Wi-Fi. You go to purchase, whether it's a hot dog and a soda, or you go to purchase a jersey, whatever the case is. Typically, you're using cashless. So oftentimes people are using their phones because they have Apple Pay and things like that. But because that's all digital now, that opens up the venue for more ways that a malicious cyber actor can easily gain access to that information and start just taking it and collecting it. And what they choose to do with it's up to them, whether it's ransomware, or they decide to do a DDoS attack, denial of service attack, and just block everything. So think about during COVID, when most things were going cashless. Nobody wanted to touch hard cash anymore because there's a possibility COVID would be transmitted. When events were taking place, oftentimes they were mandated it had to be cashless. Now, with that being said, if a malicious cyber actor was to come in and take control of that network, that Wi-Fi network that's being used internally to control all that money going left and right between the fan and the industry, if you stop that, that's millions and millions of dollars. Or not only that, but then the second, third order effects of people not trusting sports facilities and organizations. The trust is now gone. And then obviously technology advancement. So with technology advancements, you have things like biometric entry systems. Biometric entry systems use unique biological features like fingerprints, facial recognition obviously falls into that. So those are tools that can be used by facilities, sports facilities managers, in the sports world to better protect people. So that way, if somebody is on I'll just use the term, a wanted list, and they come up trying to get into a venue, possibly to cause harm, facial recognition and within seconds can scan their face based on the points of their face and immediately alert the local law enforcement as well as security, like, hey, this individual is wanted. Obviously, we're not going to let them in. He or she may be detained. So again, iris scans are another where a lot of things are going. We see that at the airport nowadays. When you go to board before you go through security, oftentimes you're getting your iris scanned. So that could help prevent unauthorized access and speed up entry. So that's another reason why using technology advancements, you can get more people rapidly through checkpoints and things like that, as well as prevent unauthorized personnel from getting in. And again, we talked about facial recognition, but compares live images to a database to known identities to identify any known threats. An example is, let's say somebody going back to the LA example I gave earlier, if they're watching the LA Lakers and they cause havoc and cause problems, and then 2 days later they decide they want to go north up to watch the Golden State Warriors. Well, if that information is captured in a database and sent through the league, that way when that individual goes to show up to the Golden State Warriors arena or whatever the case may be, that it can be identified, hey, this person caused an issue last time and here's the information, so there's a possible higher threat there.
So this study identifies some significant gaps in the cybersecurity knowledge among facility managers, highlighting a really critical area of concern. So while the physical and the personnel security measures are comparatively advanced, the absence of a standardized approach and a clear understanding of cybersecurity creates substantial vulnerabilities. So in talking about future research, some should focus on the examination of the philosophy of cybersecurity within specific professional sport organizations, a development of a comprehensive strategy for integrating and implementing risk management into security planning with a specific focus on intelligence and information sharing, and investigating the impact of budget constraints on staffing, resource, and equipment for security operations. Particularly, these areas are often categorized as non-revenue generating. So all in all, there is a significant challenge, not only for the practitioners, but for the researchers. And that's really the call that we have identified here, is that there is a significant need for more research in all three of these phases, but probably, and most importantly, the cybersecurity, because the technology advances so rapidly that those malicious individuals can almost stay 1, 2, even 3 steps ahead sometimes in planning particular cyber attacks on sport facilities. So addressing these issues aims at establishing a particular standard and offering a well-funded security framework that ensures the safety of the players, fans, and facilities is paramount. So we want to thank you all for taking your time to listen and watch this seminar. We want to point out that Stephen, myself, and Dr. Fowler have published a manuscript in the Sport Innovation Journal recently that is directly related to this presentation. So we hope that you can check that out.
Thank you, Dr. Smith and Mr. Watchers, for your presentation. It's great insight and research specifically on cybersecurity threats and the challenges faced by sport venues. As you mentioned, multiple examples of cyber breaches of sport venues, and it is paramount that venues treat these threats seriously and include them in their security plans. Venues should continue to monitor and strengthen their cybersecurity presence and offer staff training to assist in mitigating these cybersecurity threats. So we really appreciate this insight and look forward to more research concerning these cyber threats and how we can mitigate these in the future.